Hey there, what's up? Angela Mosley here with Modern Fit Moms. Today's video is all about leaking with sneezing and coughing. Right now, it's the winter season, and I literally am just getting over a nasty head cold and cough, and I'm still coughing today. So I thought, what better time than to do this video than now? If you know my story, you know that as I used to teach group fitness classes at my local gym, I would leave with pee down to my knees most times I went to teach. And so I was told to just simply limit my fluid intake, go to the bathroom before class. And while these seem great in theory, they didn't actually work because I would limit my fluid intake and I would even go to the bathroom multiple times before class and I would still leave that group fitness room with urine down to my knees. So if that is you, this video is for you. Today is very specific to coughing and sneezing. I will create more videos on exercise and high impact with leaking, but specifically today, let's talk about sneezing and coughing. So number one, you could have a tight pelvic floor or you could have a weak pelvic floor. Both of them can cause leaking. There's also a difference between urge incontinence and stress incontinence. And the type of incontinence that we're talking about today is going to be stress incontinence, where we have that impact on the pelvic floor and the pelvic floor muscles are just not able to contract, whether because they're too tight or because they're too weak, causing you to leak. And so I want to just cover a couple of things that I'm going to share with you so that you can take these and start implementing them into your day. Of course, with urinary incontinence, peeing your pants, leaking with exercise, sneezing, stress urinary incontinence, it is a whole body approach. And so we're not talking about this in this video today, but make sure you check out my free course, the 7 Steps to Mastering Your Diastasis Recti and Pelvic Floor, where I do cover the foundational things that you need to start reclaiming your pelvic floor health after birth. All right, so let's get right into it. So when we sneeze or when we cough, we typically bear down, not bear down, but we typically hunch over because we're trying to catch that sneeze or we're trying to catch that cough. And so when we hunch over in that position, whether we're going to catch that sneeze or we're going to catch that cough, we're putting a lot of pressure down into the pelvic floor. And so our diaphragm sits right underneath our rib cage right here, and we need to have that to be able to fully contract and release. So inhale, exhale, we need to allow it to fully go all the way around in that 360-degree pattern. And so when we are hunched over in that position, we can't do that. And so if you take my free course, you'll recognize and understand that our breathing and allowing that full diaphragmatic breathing, the diaphragm to fully expand with our breath helps to naturally lengthen and strengthen the pelvic floor. So when we go to sneeze and we crunch over and we put that pressure down into our pelvic floor, it's putting pressure there, which could be causing some of that leaking. Again, whether you are weak or you have a restriction in your pelvic floor, it could be that pressure could put too much pressure on the pelvic floor, making you end up leaking. So what can we do about it other than corrective exercises and more movement and possible weight loss if that is a goal or if that is something that you need to work towards? Something you can implement right away is by changing the position of your body when you go to sneeze or cough. And so the very first thing, let's talk about sneezing. So when we sneeze, I always tell my son, and his preschool actually shared this with us, to sneeze in your chicken wing. So your chicken wing is your arm, right? And so a lot of us will sneeze hunched over, crushing our diaphragm, putting pressure down into our pelvic floor, and we come here and we do this, and then we end up with leaking. So I want you to try, instead of hunching over, I want you to bring your elbow up towards you. So up towards the ceiling, so you're coming in, ribs stacked over those hips, and instead of sneezing down, you're sneezing up. And so this little hack alone can help prevent some of that pressure that's going on the pelvic floor, preventing some of that leaking that you might be experiencing. So we go, achoo! Inhale or into our elbow. Same thing with a cough. You want to do the same thing. So bring your elbow up and you're going to cough into your elbow. Into that elbow. Now try that first. And then my second tip for you is to engage the pelvic floor. Now, if you have pelvic floor tightness, you might not be able to engage it, because I like to think of it as a fist. If our pelvic floor muscles are just so tight and so restricted, there's no room for them to expand and grow, right? And so when we go to sneeze, they cannot actually contract. So if you have pelvic floor tightness, this might not actually work for you. But for somebody who has pelvic floor weakness and needs to work on strengthening, this might be something that with consistency over time can help prevent some of that leaking. So when we go to sneeze up into our elbow, I also want you to think about lifting from the bottom up. So as we go to sneeze, achoo, I want you to think about doing a Kegel, right? So we lift the Kegel to help shut off that from our body to leak the urine. Now, another thing that you want to think about is getting some good inhales and exhales. And I know sneezing or coughing kind of catches you off guard at times. And so, but if we become more mindful of our breathing and improving our breath and improving our posture, this alone can help improve pelvic floor function. So it really is a whole body approach and a whole body awareness. So again, let's recap 2 things. You want to bring it up. So you want to stack those ribs over your hips. Bring your elbow up above, and you're going to sneeze up or cough up into your elbow rather than hunching over. And then the second thing is thinking about lifting up the pelvic floor through a Kegel contraction as you go to cough and sneeze. Now, this is going to take some time to get used to. So that's why consistency is going to be your best bet. And so for me, I was able to practice this all last week when I was sick. I'm still coughing quite a bit, but I am able to able to avoid any kind of leaking because I have trained my body. I am 3 years postpartum, and it's been a journey, right? And so it is a journey. So take these little tips and tricks as you go throughout your day. Implement what feels good for you. Implement what works. What doesn't work, then let it go. But the most important thing is consistency over time so that you can start to see some results within your pelvic floor. I hope I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that made sense. If you have any questions, post them below.